Associates, development proposal up on Rockhill Road. We had concerns, I brought our concerns to the supervisors, or I brought it to the manager. He suggested that we write a letter to the Planning Commission of Richland Township, which I brought to the supervisors at last meeting, for their approval. I penned a letter. Steve made it sound official, and we sent it off to them, and we have not heard back from them. Correct. Okay. That's all I have on this.
Do you happen to know if any of the other things are
The traffic
survey and the discussion about the...
My understanding, the applicant was still investigating some of those items and in discussions with Richland Township, but I haven't had any direct information.
Okay. All right, that's all I got for old business. Last is public comment. We haven't had enough already. All right, I see none. Oh, super.
Super long, I'll keep it real quick. I just looked at the map. I find out my house is like, 10 feet beyond what their little, or maybe a little more than that, circle is. And I'm concerned. I'm on a well. And, it sounds like, if you happen to be, outside their perimeter, too bad. And, he's trying to come across as a little bit more lenient than that. But, it behooves them to keep that circle as small as possible. The conflict for them is to make that circle big, if you know what I mean. So, for them to draw the circle, and I'm on the outside looking in, and I'm at risk, doesn't sit well with me.
I understand that.
So
I don't think they drew the circle.
Huh?
I don't think they drew the circle.
Well, who drew the circle?
That would have been done by the surveys.
It was done by their hydrogeology survey,
That they
the
hired?
study.
It was
Yes,
done by their,
that's reviewed by DEP.
No matter where you draw the circle, somebody's gonna be like right outside of it. No matter
Well,
where you draw it.
my property is fairly deep. I mean, I'd like to at least have the well portion of my property. I don't care about the creek, but I may end up drinking creek water if this goes through. So,
thank you. Any others? Okay, Denise?
A simple one. Thank you for taking the time and extending the meeting to hear all the aspects.
Yep. You're welcome. Thank you for contributing. Yes, Pat?
I'd also like to say thank you. I thought the meeting went well. It was complete.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I have
Bob?
one thing that I did want to say at the end there, and I guess this can be addressed to the quarry also. Now, they said that they were, now is it contingent upon them getting this permit that they said that they were willing to do these filtration systems? Now, would they be willing, if they do not get this permit, are they still willing to do that, or is this only contingent upon?
We're sitting right behind.
Is that just contingent upon, you know what I'm trying to say, should this be in place now? I mean, if you don't get this, you're not gonna, look at these filters and say, hey, you know what, we didn't get this, we're on our own? Or is this something that is just
No,
contingent
that's
upon?
the other guy.
Currently, Bob, it's based on the condition of the extension.
So that's something
He's a
that,
Erlinger.
I'm one person that sits on a multi-generation, multi-family business.
and there's a lot thrown at you
So-
today, I understand.
No, no worries, no worries. Hey, listen, we do what we do. We come here because we are a very responsible operator. You have to let some of this shed off because we know who we are, other than or being described or like to other operators, because we're not that. When that facility down the road went up in smoke, this township contacted us to come in and help. Okay, so I think that itself shows a great deal of respect to who we are and how we operate. You all have been in the facility. You all have seen what we're about. So I can take anything back to the board as the long and short of it.
Oh, it's just-
And we'll be willing to do that.
Right, no, like I said, I just didn't know if they were considering,
I had
if,
the same
if it doesn't, well, hey, sorry, it's off the table. So,
You've seen the plan has evolved from the beginning to the end, and I know the comments, and I know this is close to the evening, so it's on the record as far as I'm concerned. It's up to you guys. But that's who we are and what we're about. So we're not afraid to take anything back and openly discuss it. That's how the arsenic filters became part of the condition that we presented tonight, was through the dialogue here. It's above and beyond, it's not part of the regulation that we have to operate in. But it's the right thing to do if we can work it into this plan.
Well, that's what I was asking. I mean, I know you said you were, but I didn't know if that was like, again, if you didn't get this, well, you know what, we're going to retract this, and hey, this is only if we were
We've been
going to.
open doored through this whole thing, and we hear you,
All right.
all right? There's 144 members of our group that work within this and the surrounding communities, okay? Didn't come out tonight, it's part of that economic report. I encourage you all, regardless of how you feel about what you heard tonight, to get into that report and take a look about what benefits that the quarry does bring. 144 of our associates, right either in this community, West Rockhill, or surrounding us on a perimeter. That's a big employee base. When you look at that economic report, look at the factors of how they multiply the impact of those earnings and how it's spread through that footprint. I encourage you to just have a broad mind when you're looking at not only the mine and how it's operated, but also the benefits to the community.
I have one more quick
Yes,
question.
sir.
He just said that this is contingent upon this new development here. I thought I heard earlier from I believe his name is Harris in the middle, if I'm correct,
Yes.
said that there is a bond there right now, and it was $267,000, if I remember that correctly, that is there to remediate for people currently who have water problems, that per law, it doesn't cover just reclamation, it also covers ongoing water issues. So why can't some of these people tap that $267,000 bond? The man said that.
That's for if they're out of business.
No,
That's a safety,
okay, so it's just if they go under,
right.
I see.
As
Okay.
long as they're solvent, they're supposed to be taken care of.
All right, thank you.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
You know, like Jim said, the way we operate and the way we want to respond is so nobody ever has to go that route and draw upon that bond. And to be
That's
quite
fine,
honest
I
with
just
you-
misunderstood the
No, I
purpose.
understand. You know, and when we get complaints, we want to deal with them head on. Township doesn't get a lot of complaints because they're coming to us and we're dealing with them. Certainly, if people weren't satisfied, the township would be the next person that they're contacting. And I know the township doesn't get many calls about well complaints or us not responding to well complaints. The next avenue is the state. Before you would get to the bond and drawing upon bond to correct a well complaint, the state would look at it first, and if they determined, hey, wait a minute, operator, Naisville, you're responsible to fix this, fix it.
So it
That's what
doesn't
would
matter
happen.
about your perimeter. If I'm beyond your perimeter and the state comes in and says, and I don't know how much that's gonna cost me, but determines that, okay, this should have been within the perimeter, then they hold you responsible.
Right, so that perimeter is it's a line based upon a scientific model. Now, if you called and you were just outside of it, then I can attest to this. When we had those situations where we had people, not necessarily here, but at other quarries, who called and we looked on the map and they were just outside of it, does that mean we said, no? We've looked at them. You know, I can't speak to the past 15, 20 years ago, but I can speak to what we're responsible for right now.
Okay, I'll
And
take your word
again,
out.
if the state of Pennsylvania got the call and they looked at it and said, yeah, it's outside they're not gonna do that either. They're gonna come out and they're gonna look at it. They're obligated to come out and investigate a claim, no matter where it's at. So the chances of a resident having to draw upon a bond to get their solution fixed is slim to none, because the state would get involved before that would happen, and if the quarry was responsible, we'd be required by
Okay.
law.
Yeah, the one question that Sue had asked before, does that bond help residents, after the quarry shut down, residents who are suffering from water loss?
Well, after quarry shuts down, you know, when you say shut down, I assume operations are done, our pumps are off. Once those pumps go off, we're rebounding.
Right.
So your water impacts as a result of pumping are gonna start to immediately go away. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not gonna be a well or wells in the area that don't have impacts, that don't have a loss of yield. Because there's a number of things that can happen that have nothing to do with pumping or nothing to do with the quarry. You can, you don't have to be near a quarry and lose yield to your well, especially in this area. We talked about all the minerals that are in the water. Well, the minerals in that water also cause a thing called calcification. It's like an old house and pipes and they close up. That same phenomenon happens with all those open fractures that bring water into the well or borehole. The minerals close up those fractures and it shuts off the water supply to the borehole. So what is perceived as a water loss maybe because of a quarry could be simply that. And in this area, in Bucks County, we've responded to well complaints that they thought, hey, it's because of the quarry. The data didn't add up. Our monitoring data showed there's no way we've impacted or lowered the water table, at least at this time. And we investigated a little bit more. It was a hydrofrac. The hydrofrac's less costly.
I believe to answer Chris's question, we'll get to the point where the operation stops, the permit is closed out.
Right.
What happens at that point, if I understood?
If I'm not mistaken, Steve had Mr. Harris had mentioned that there was some responsibility to ongoing well problems that the bond would cover.
You
Is
did
that-
say that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
That's kind of
and the bond's there for obviously reclamation,
Right.
but it's also in place for things like that.
Okay.
But you'll get to a point, Chris, where if the operation's done, the permit is closed out, we're no longer in operation, everything has been met, all standards that, the permit comes off, or the bond comes off, right?
Once
This-
they're
Everything is
satisfied.
Once they're
satisfied and it's
satisfied, right.
closed down,
Okay.
so you have that level of protection up until that point.
Yeah, I think Mr. Harris was specifically speaking to if the quarry closer went out of business without fully reclaiming,
Correct,
the state would still retain that bond.
correct.
And they have the ability to use it for other issues than just
Beyond
the
pure reclamation.
pure reclamation.
But
I think that's what he was talking to specifically.
Generally speaking, Steve, with regard to protect our operations, we see them through the end. And we put the line to its final state, we don't leave anything open. So
How many
that's-
lines have you closed?
Let me count, Chestnut, Rockhill, Jennifer, north, south, South Sterling, Colony, about a half a dozen,
And are they in the same type of reclamation?
various states, as
Very
being
good.
described through different uses.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comment? Any motion to adjourn?
I'll make said motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I'll kill you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.